Welcome students. Now we are creating this video for practical number 7C. So let us concentrate what is exactly expected in practical number 7C. What university says, we need to create a web application for inserting and deleting the record from the database. And we are required to do it by using execute non-query. Now command object is in use by us when we are interested in going for inserting, updating or deleting. At that time, definitely we required to use your execute non-query only. So first we need to decide which table is being considered. So I am considering the same database created by us as BSc-IT and one table like authors table I am taking. So let us focus about how we can build this particular application. A little bit a complicated application, थोड़ा video भी बड़ा हो जाएगा, जरा बराबर से ध्यान देना. So here it comes. I'm planning to go for creating a new project. A web application only I'm creating. Practical number 7C. So I'm writing practical 7C. Then give it a click on create. Empty application I'm creating. Few settings. First of all, I'm trying to complete in web.config. So I'm going to the Solution Explorer, going to the web.config. And here I'm interested in going for adding first of all the connection string with a database. So after the system.web, I'm interested in going for connection string tag. And I'm adding the new connection string. The name is been C1. And the connection string is for a BSc to the server explorer. Give a right click on the connection, go to the properties. This we had seen in the earlier videos also. Then copying and then pasting the connection string over. Now, when I'm trying to go for inserting, I am expecting that we will be going for checking the validations also. As I told you earlier, that when we are trying to work with the validation with the newer versions, you need to add up the app settings, right? So in the app settings, so I will be copying this app setting tag and I'm trying to add it after the connection strings. Okay. So this will be allowing our validation controls to work properly. Now, let us go for designing our application. I'm trying to use one control called as multi-view control, which is in your curriculum only. That will be helping. So, one view I'm using for deleting and another view I'm using for inserting. So, I go to the practical 7C. I plan to add a web form into it. So, web form 1 is added by me. And here, first of all, I'm completing my designing task. So, I go to toolbox. First, I'm adding my multi-view control. Inside a multi-view, we need to add multiple views. So, I'm adding the view. Now, adding the another view into this is a little bit tough. So, do one thing, go to source and just by designing mode, after this view, just drag one new view over here. So, now you'll find two views are there. One is named as your view 1 and second is named as what your view 2. And we are trying to complete our designing either in view 1 or in what here view 2. So here it comes, I come to design and I'm trying to complete my designing inside a view 1. Before this multi-view control, I would like to go for adding two buttons. The first button I'm adding, which will be activating the insertion, and second button is for deletion. So I add one thing for new record and one button I'm adding it for delete. So I'm going to design. I just give a text to this button as add new author. And the second button, I'm planning to provide the text as remove author. As I'm using the author database and author table, I'm just putting the text as new author and remove author. So fine, multi-view control has been added. Now completed designing. The view 1, I'm using it for the sake of adding the new author. So I'm completing my design. Here I'm planning to add one label, which will be accepting the author ID. In front of the label, I'm adding the text box. You can make a better design. Second label I'm adding for the sake of author name. So I'm taking the label for author name. Again, in front of that, a text box has been taken for the author name. Next, I'm adding one label for author phone number, as I'm having 3 columns into it. then adding a text box into this. So fine, these all values are being set by us. Now I go to the text box, I go to this properties. First I'm changing a text mode. I'm keeping the text mode as what your number, because author ID is an integer value considered by me. Let me check what are the data types are there. Author ID is integer, author name is varchar 50 and author phone number is varchar 50. It has to be varchar 10 actually, but I had kept this 50, but we will consider the validation of 10 digits only as a mobile number. Minimum nahi, exact 10 digits are required. So I am completing my validation. First I take this particular text box 1, kept the text mode as number. The second text box, similarly, I am providing the max length of this text box as 50. So no author name should be entered by the user above 50. And this text box, I am keeping the max length as what here 10. No author should be having a phone number above 10 digit as been considered by us, assumed by us. And according to that only we are putting the validations. This label text I had provided as author ID. The second label text I am providing it as author name. The third label text I am providing it as phone number or author phone number. Actually author का ही ID रहेगा, author का ही name रहेगा, तो author ID की जगह पे ID लिखा तो भी चलेगा, depends on you. थोड़ा सा स्पेसिंग वगैरह अच्छे से करना है तो स्पेसिंग वगैरह अपने रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से आप सेटअप कर लो. It is better to use the tables etc. for designing and to give a better look and feel. अभी फिलहाल तो मैं स्पेस से ही काम चला लेता हूँ. Moving ahead, I would like to implement some validations that author ID must be provided, author name must be provided, phone number must be provided. So all I want a required field validator. So here it comes. I am moving towards our validation and putting the required field validator. So I'm going here for a required field validator and putting the validation error message, maybe star, that is more than sufficient. And control to validate, I had mentioned over here as text box 1. Further, for this particular text box, I am implementing the validation again as required field validator. And for this also I am putting the required field. I want all three. Along with the phone number, I want phone number should be of 10 digits only. So that's the reason I am putting over here a regular expression. Now, few settings need to be completed by us. First, error message, I am giving it a star. Over here also, error message has been given by me as star. That means compulsory. Plus the display mode is display static. I make it as dynamic. The regular expression validator, I had provided an error message, maybe invalid number. And the control to validate for this is again text box 3. The validation expression I had mentioned over here. For 10 digit, the expression which has been created by us is \d in the blocks 10. This means only 10 digit, not more than 10 digit, not less than 10 digit, and it should be must be digits only. Let's check whether this control property has been set properly. Control to validate. Okay, this is not set. I know that. So text box 2. So this is the regular validator where we are setting our validation as text box 1. Over here, I just pin up this thing. It is easy for me to design. This is our text box 2. This will be auto regular expression for text box 3, and as well as display for this has been dynamic, so that if it is required, then only it will be displayed. The space will not be extremely consumed for it. Yeah, so let us go for checking the control to validate properly set by every validator or not. So required field validator 3, one of my students says, sir, control to validator rahe gaya, barabar hai. So this also I am keeping it as text box 3. Fine. Contains are been properly set now. Now, there is a problem. Now, this is the multi-view control, but it is not for grouping. It is for visibling true or false. So, when I am trying to go for keeping one button over here as say insert, then these validation controls should work only for this insert button, not for any other button, because otherwise the validation will work for all the buttons. So we require to group the validations. So these all 4 validation created by us must be set with the insert button only. That's the reason we are going to the insert button, and here we are using validation group. Maybe I give a name of this validation group as AB or A. Then these all validation controls, these 3 required field and one regular expression are required to provide a validation group as A. So this has been grouped as A. This has also been grouped as A. The required field validated 2 is also been grouped as A. This is also been grouped as what here? A. Fine. So all the validation controls grouping has been done properly. Button has also been added. So these all validation will work only and only for this insert button, not for all other buttons. This need to be considered, otherwise validation will be checked for all buttons. That is the purpose of the validation group, as you had learned with me in our classroom sessions also. Fine. So this task is what been completed. Now we are moving ahead for completing the insert code. Let's try one by one. First, I will complete this add new author and remove author. What I'm expecting, when the user clicks on add new author, the view 1 must be displayed. And when the user clicks on the remove author, the view 2 must be displayed. So I first complete the code of add new author. The code has been quite easy. The code is what? It is multi-view control is multi-view 1. Dot, you can have a set active view and provide which view you want to be displaying. I just say I would like to display view 1. Fine. And similarly, I am going towards the remove author, and here again I am displaying multi-view 1 dot set active view as what here view 2. So easily what we had done, we had set up the active views in an appropriate way. Right? So the task of these 2 buttons has been completed by us. Now the task starts with the insert button. Task starts with what here? Insert button. So this is the database code ultimately. Validations are already been set. So it is hardly a small insert query which need to be followed by us. But there may be a problem of any other exception may occurs in the code. So that exception need to be also displayed. We should have a space to display that particular exception. So I'm keeping the label in this view only, where I'm interested in what displaying if any exception occur or a message to be displayed or recorded added successfully. So I'm just removing the text and keeping the ID of this label as LBL message. Fine. So this LBL message is the label which has been provided by us. Now here I'm completing my insert code. First task is what? Importing the required namespaces. So I imported namespaces by using system.data as well as using system.data.sql client. And for connection string, I am writing using system.web.configuration. Fine, my task is what been completed. Now let us start to focus about the code for the insert. The convention says, as I told you in lecture, it is better to change the button's name. I am not now changing it. So on a button 3 text, I need to write my code. First of all, I just try to go for try catch because the exception may occur in a database program. So I'm writing exception EX, and whatever the exception is there, that must be displayed on LBL message dot text equal to VX dot message if an exception occurs. So let's try with the first part is what? Establishing connection. So I just mentioned over here SQL connection con equal to new SQL connection, in the bracket the connection string which we need to retrieve from web.config. So we mentioned web configuration manager dot connection string in the square bracket the name of an object dot connection string. So find the task is what been completed now. So connection string is what been set. Moving ahead, I need to go for specifying now opening the connection. So I just mentioned over here con.open. The program has been quite easy. The next task is what? Creating the command. So I mentioned SQL command Sem-v equal to new SQL command and putting the insert query. I am using the parameterized query so that I can pass the text boxes values afterwards. So I had mentioned the insert query by saying insert into the table name, author. All column values need to be specified, so no need to specify the column name. So I'm using values. Then I'm passing ID. I'm passing name. I'm passing maybe phone. So 3 values need to be passed, and connection object is what been set by us. Fine. So insert query is been written over here. Now we need to go for passing those parameters which has been created by us. Which are been created by us. They are like @ID, @name, @phone. So how can we pass the text boxes value to the parameter? The task is very easy. Cmd.parameters.add with value. In the bracket, first of all, the parameter, that is @ID, and which value you would like to pass. I would like to pass text box 1 ka text. Then cmd.parameters.add with value. I need to pass parameter name, and here I would like to pass text box 2 ka text. Then I am providing cmd.parameters.add with value. I would like to pass phone, and here I am passing text box 3 ka text. Fine, those tasks have been completed by us. Phone is there, name is there, as well as what we can say ID has been there. And now I would like to go for what? Executing my query. So how to execute a query is simple. You have to specify cmd.execute non-query. So when you are using insert or update or delete, you are using the method as execute non-query. And when the query is executed successfully, it means the record is added successfully. So I had mentioned over here as lbl message.text equal to record is added successfully. And all the text boxes need to be blank. So I'm writing over here text box 1.text equal to empty. Again, text box 2 text need to be empty. Again, text box 3's text need to be empty, and my task is being completed. Let's first test this task whether it's working fine or not, and then we will go to the delete task. So I just plan to run this page. It will take some time. First time IIS starts, it always takes a time. So fine, the web form is being displayed. It is displaying you nothing, but only 2 buttons are being displayed to you. One is for adding new author, and second is for what? Removing the author. So when you're looking at this particular page, you can find the page is completing its loading, and it shows me only 2 buttons, that is adding new author and removing the author. If I give a click on the remove author, nothing is happening. Why nothing is happening? Because we had not specified anything inside the second view. But whereas when I give a click on add new author, you can see the first view is what being activated. Where it asks me the author ID, so I'm passing the author ID as 98. Author name, I am providing author name as Popo, and the phone number I am providing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I plan to insert. You know, we had completed the validations also, and 10 digit need to be passed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 8, 7, 0. And if I give a click on insert, it says invalid object name author. It means there is some or the other exception which is getting occurred into it. So I will be first of all going in database and checking, yes, my table name is not author. My table name is what? Authors. So there is a syntax error. So I just ended this application, and here insert into, I'm keeping the statement as author. That is the beauty, that you are always printing the exception. So you come to know where exactly the issue had occurred. So run the page once again. Let's try to check whether the record is getting added properly or not. Again, same 2 buttons are displayed when I give a click on the first button. Now here I need to pass on the author name, Popo. So what is Popo? There is no meaning of Popo. And 187, okay, 9 digit, 10 digit. And I give a click on insert. It says the record is added successfully. So really record is added or not, I don't know. So I will just go to the backend. I will check by selecting top 1000 rows. The Popo need to be added. Let's check whether Popo is getting added or not. And you can find the authors table records are getting displayed, which has this author which is added by us. So as per expectation, we had completed our task of insertion. The first view we had created for insertion, and the second view we are planning to use for the sake of deletion. So let us concentrate how we can go for the code for deletion. So I need to complete my code over here in this particular view for the same. So for deleting the records, now what I need to do for deleting the records? What I'm expecting, user will be having a drop-down list where all the author IDs are being displayed. And when the user select the author ID, automatically the author name is being displayed and the delete button is there. So if the author delete button is being pressed, then the record of that author will be deleted. This is what a task which I am expecting. So for doing this, I need to have a drop-down list. So remember that when you are designing anything, please clear with your thought process what you would like to do. So I am keeping my drop-down list. Over here, I would like to display all the author IDs. Okay. When the user select the ID, the author name should be displayed. So I am taking a label where I am displaying what the author name. Right. Moving ahead, I am using a delete button. So when a user clicks on delete button, the record must be deleted. The record must be what? Deleted. So I'm just keeping over here the text as what we delete. And here it comes. What I'm expecting, this label will be label 4. I just change the name of it as I'm using it programmatically. I'm just changing the name of it as LBL, maybe name. Because author name is getting displayed over there. The text is also, I'm keeping it as empty. Further, I'm interested in displaying a message. For the message, again, I'm keeping this label. So earlier is the LBL message. So I just keep this ID as LBL message 2. Fine. So record is deleted successfully or not. That values must be displayed. Now I need that drop-down list to be updated every time. When a drop-down list to be updated, whenever you add the record, drop-down list must be updated. When you are deleting the record, drop-down list must be updated. So the code which are written in our last practical for a drop-down list, that need to be executed whenever we are adding the record also as well as deleting the record also. The best technique for is what? The best technique is create a function, write the code inside a function, and then call the function wherever is required. So we are trying to work with the same. So let's focus how exactly we can do it. So you can create one new function. First, one task which is remaining by us, I need to close the connection. So I'm writing con.close. So connection is what been closed by me. I need to create one more function for updating the drop-down list. So I just say public, return type is void. I just say update drop-down list. So this function has been created by me as update drop-down list. So updated lag raha hai, par wo update drop-down list hai. You can keep any name, whatever you want. And then I am just keeping the same code here. Sir, kyun sir? Mera thoda sa task kam ho raha hai na? So I just copy paste the code and I am removing the code whatever is not necessary. Otherwise, do one thing. For this video sake, I will write the code again. So it is try block followed by the catch exception EX. Moving ahead, in a try block, first of all, create a connection object. So SQL connection con equal to new SQL connection in the bracket web configuration manager dot connection strings. In that C1 dot connection string, then the connection need to be open. So I'm specifying con.open. Then you require to retrieve the information. So I'm creating the SQL command saying cmd equal to new SQL command. In the bracket, I'm providing the query asterisk from authors. And the connection object name mentioned by me as con. The record need to be retrieved and passed towards what here SQL data reader. So I'm providing SQL data reader dr equal to cmd dot execute reader. So records have been retrieved and passed towards what here dr. Now this data reader object must be linked with a drop-down list. So I'm writing over here drop-down list 1 dot data source equal to dr. What I would like to display, the author ID. So I'm writing drop-down list 1 dot data text field equal to the column name. I'm just remembering the column name as AUIIT हो गया गलती से यहाँ पे है ना, ID नहीं हो गया. तो चले AUID होना चाहिए था. By mistake it is AUID. And then again I am writing drop down list 1 dot data value field equal to, what is the column name I had mentioned over here? AU name. So it is AU name. So then we have to bind the data list by saying drop down list 1 dot data bind. So the task has been over of updating the drop down list. So what will happen about your exception? Right now I don't want to consider the exception. Let's see afterwards. Otherwise what I will do is some simple technique. I will just throw this exception. So the method who is calling this particular function will catch that exception. So how to throw the exception? Everybody knows. Throw and name of the exception which you would like to throw. Right? So I had just used throw EX. But I think so everybody knows that throw EX से possible ज़्यादा नहीं होगा because the exception is a super class. तो specific type का exception से आप throw कर सकते हो. Okay, so I am just keeping this throw exception right now empty. We will see it afterwards. Okay, what I told you, exception is super class. Subclasses exception can be thrown. So if I am writing SQL connection exception, SQL exception, then those can be what? Thrown. Sir, एक बार बता दो क्या होता है तो ठीक है. I will just tell you. Instead of exception over here, I am writing it as SQL exception. And here I am writing throw EX. Now this is allowed. Now this is what being allowed. Exception is a super class. That cannot be thrown. Usko throw nahi kar sakte. Now my task is after insertion again. Okay, one thing. What you need to do, you close the connection. How to close the connection? Con dot close. So after this particular task of insertion happens, then I would like to go for update drop down list. Simple. So automatically the drop down list will be also what? Refreshed. So I don't require to write the code of it again and again. That is the beauty of the object oriented. And both are non-static functions, so they can be called in each other. Now I am completing my task of button 4 click. First thing what I am expecting, when the user will be selecting the drop down list item, then the name has to be what? Displayed on the label. So auto post back I would like to work. So I enable the auto post back. And I'm writing the code for the drop down list selected index change. So here I'm writing it as label 1. What was our LBL thana? LBL name dot text selected author is plus drop down list 1 dot selected value. Simply the task is what been completed, right? तो ये selected value करके आ जाता है. चलो यार, I had saved the program. Everything is working in the nice direction now. Now what has been expected? I am expecting to work with what they delete. Expecting to work with what here? Delete. So how to work with the delete? Is again a easier code. So I double click on the code and now again I am going with the same try catch. Try catch exception EX. Now here any exception occurs, then LBL message 2 will be displaying that message. So LBL message 2 equal to what? EX dot message. In the try block again and we are creating the SQL connection. So SQL connection con equal to new SQL connection. In the bracket I am writing web configuration manager. See, now this is the T.Y.Bsc.It program. So I am writing the SQL connection again and again. Otherwise from the connection pool you have to take the connection in the real life program. So I am writing web configuration manager connection string. The connection object name C1 dot connection string. Fine, my task has been over. Now what is my next task? The next task is what? Opening connection, that is con dot open. What is the next task after the con dot open? After the con dot open, we have to fire the delete query. So I am creating SQL command cmd equal to new SQL command. In the bracket I am providing over here what I need to provide. I need to provide what we can say delete query by saying delete from authors where AUID है ना, AUID हो गया अपना ना कुछ तो, हाँ AUID हो गया, तो AUID equal to ID and the connection object I mentioned as what here con. Fine, that .NET is also not that tough, right? Now next is what we have to go for, creating the command object Sem-v dot parameters dot add with value. I am providing @ID and then the drop down list 1 dot text. Text is the better option. Why text is the better option? Because selected value लेगा तो author का नाम आएगा. Text लेगा तो क्या आएगा रे बाबा? Author का ID आएगा, right? So I had used the drop down list 1 text. Then I would like to go for executing the query by Sem-v dot execute non-query. Then I would like to display the message. First I close the connection. And then I display the message as lbl message2 dot text equal to record is deleted successfully. And further I am interested in going for refreshing the drop down list. So I say update drop down list. Now whenever the user will be given the click on this button, remove author, at that time I want few things has to be done. Just not activation of view 2. I want the drop down list must be also updated. So I just say update drop down list and our LBL message 2 need to be empty, as well as LBL name need to be empty. So that if anything is wrongly selected, that has to be removed. Now here it comes, I am saving my application and I am trying to go for running the application. Insertion was working fine, we had already checked that. Now we would like to just check whether our deletion is working fine or not. So I am going towards first view, that is the add new author. We had already worked with it. I go to the remove author, fine. A drop down list is showing me all the author IDs. I am selecting the author ID. It shows me which author has been selected by you. I give a click on a delete. It displays a message. Oh my goodness. It says conversion failed when converting the envar value Anish to a data type int. It means the value which has been selected by us is actually Anish. So text उसने क्या कर लिया है? Anish कर लिया है. So let us try to find out how exactly the error need to be resolved. So I am going towards my welcome.cs, webform.cs, sorry. तो यहाँ पे देखते हैं डिलीट का कोड में क्या छोटा सा इशू रहेगा. यहाँ पे इशू है तो ड्रॉप डाउन लिस्ट 1 का टेक्स्ट में इशू है. तो आई जस्ट से ड्रॉप डाउन लिस्ट 1 डॉट सिलेक्टेड आइटम डॉट एंड देन आई एम यूजिंग टेक्स्ट. सो व्हाट एवर द आइटम इज सिलेक्टेड उसका टेक्स्ट मुझे क्या करना है, यूज करना है. तो वैल्यू अलग होता है एंड टेक्स्ट होता है अलग. So I run the page again and I'm trying to check whether it is working fine or not. So here I selected remove author. I am selecting the author to be removed and then I had given a click on delete and the Shri author is what getting deleted. But the selected author Shri, this text also need to be what? Blank. तो वो कैसा करेंगे? एकदम simple है. Once the record has been deleted successfully, you just keep your LBL name dot text equal to empty. So this is a little bit a bigger practical as such, where we had completed our code for insertion as well as deletion along with the multi-view. So I'm expecting that class थोड़ा ध्यान देंगे and you will try to go for practicing the practical properly. If you need the source code etc., please comment it out. Subscribe the channels. I will be also providing all the details to you. Thanks a lot, class.